everyone, and welcome to Trailblazin with Tara Misu, the podcast where we try to put a little fun back in cannabis while sharing a little insider wisdom and chatting with some amazing guests. Today we have former defensive lineman Cullen Jenkins. He went from an undrafted free agent in 2003 and spent 13 amazing years playing in the NFL, including a Super Bowl win in 2010 Super Bowl 45 as a Green Bay Packer. Over his career, he has played for the Philadelphia Eagles, the New York Giants, and the Washington Redskins, and he's recently become an owner of Fresh Farms CBD and is now trying to convert and spread the word of this wonderful alternative treatment for pain. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Cullen Jenkins.
Thank you for having me.
I will admit I am not a huge football fan. Did I get that all right?
Yes, you did.
Okay, because I spent a little time researching last night, and I was like, all right, I think I nailed it. Okay, well, thank you for coming on the podcast. So just a couple things I want to talk about. So I know you've had a lot of injuries over the years. So can you kind of start with, what it's like playing in the NFL and constantly kind of living in this state of tolerating pain?
I from a young age, when you're playing, you're just taught to deal with pain. You're taught, you suck it up, you don't show it, because showing pain, especially in football, is a sign of weakness. So that's just not something you're supposed to do. And so as you especially when you get older and you get to higher levels of playing, the pain becomes a lot more severe because you've got guys that are a lot bigger, a lot faster, a lot stronger. And, especially when it becomes your job, like you have to perform or you're going to lose your job. So you just have to find ways to, not show the pain and be able to fight through it.
And I've heard some of the way that NFL deals with this is just pushing painkillers, right?
Yeah, you get a lot of pills, a lot of anti-inflammatories. It depends on the extent of your injuries, especially back before. Now currently or towards the end of my career, they started to monitor it a lot more.
Yeah.
And not just try to give them out as freely as they used to.
Well, that's what I heard, that trainers would just have them in their bags and just hand them out. Is that true, and is that even legal?
It used to be legal. Trainers would fly; they would have a bag of everything. So at the end of games, whatever you needed,
God!
You could go to the doctor on the plane, and you could get whatever you wanted. The training staff would have the pills in their safe, in a safe in the rooms, and that's how it used to be. And it's not like that anymore, or at least as they got away from that, towards later in my career. But yeah, back in the beginning of my career, and probably till maybe about till the new CBA or so. Yeah, it was just freely.
You just had a traveling drug dealer at all times.
Yeah.
Wow. So, with this constant pressure to just play injured, do you feel like the NFL really prioritizes their players and their players' well-being, or is it more about just get in there and do what you got to do?
It's definitely about get in there and do what you got to do. Now, I have not been as, I guess, outspoken. I've spoken more on, the healing effects of, CBD with just trying to get away from pain pills. Mm-hmm. But especially in this past year with the things that I've gone through, I feel like the NFL has shown their true colors more than anything with how they treat, players. And I've seen some of the stories. I was looking at one of the stories of one of the offensive linemen who is having a grievance with the NFL now because he's saying he needs surgery and they're saying he's okay to play. And so it's a back and forth battle. And, for me personally, I'm looking at it and I'm like, he's probably making the right decisions by making sure he's okay before he returns. Things I'm going through now, like I just had a thumb fusion, my right hand, I'm right-handed. I can't even use my right hand, very well.
I remember when I first met you, I went to shake your hand, and you were like, "Whoa, use the other one."
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's literally that much pain you're in from just injuries you sustained that far back.
Yeah, and then the injuries are not. When I hurt this, they told me I bruised it, told me to get back out. And I remember I got into it with the training staff because I'm like, I can't, and come to find out later, they misdiagnosed it. it was broke. I had really bad arthritis because it healed back, deformed, and so. But their solution is here. Take some pills. To get a little treatment and get back on the field and play.
Sure, because they're not thinking about, not even after your retirement, but they're just thinking about the next game, where you have to consider also the longevity of your career.
Yeah.
Like, right? Like, if I get injured in this game, does that knock me out for how many more, or make my career end short than I could have played longer? And they're probably not thinking of any of that, right? That's all your problem.
Yeah, like they always say, you can't make the club in the tub, and that's you got to be available. You've got to be on the field, and they don't care how you do it. They just want you out there.
Sure.
And so, for us, that's what you learn. You learn to, find whatever ways you need to get back on the field so you can, play and perform and do your job. And, that's just how it is.
And so now after your retirement, and I don't know, maybe while you were even playing, you talked about just dealing with the usage of pills. And now that, you're out of the game, you still kind of maybe have some residual addiction issues or, kind of self-medicating to deal with what you have going on. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah. You get used to that culture of turning to medication or pills for everything. And then, especially once you get out of football, you're trying to figure out how to cope with the pain. But it's weird because it's like now I'm hurting, but I'm not hurting for a reason. Back before it was like, I was in pain, but it's because, I was playing. And it's, I take the pills so I can get right and play. But now, it's like I'm hurting, but I'm not playing anymore. So now how do I cope with it? Because I don't need to take pills to get back on the field, but yet I still want to find a way to deal with this pain that I'm having.
Yeah. And is it more than just the physical pain? But I'm thinking there must be some emotional pain from this roller coaster of what your life was, of this constant adrenaline and then downtime, and now you're just kind of like the dust settled. I mean, I don't know. Personally, for me, and I think most people, we're always looking for this peak in our life, like, oh, it's going to get better. What am I going to accomplish next? And I think once you win a Super Bowl, like, that's going to be a hard one to top. So is it just kind of like now you come back down to earth with the rest of us humans? And
the one thing I can say, career-wise, yeah, you play a Super Bowl, you get to that level, and now, you come back and you're trying to transition into, life without football. But having my two daughters Jasmine and Ashanti, they are 19 and 16, and they're what keep me motivated. They keep me driven, and it probably keep me sane as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what everyone always says, the best day of your life is when your kids are born. So you probably have like 3 best days then.
Well, I got 2. Well, yeah, because of Super Bowl. But, yeah, I don't know about that, though.
No?
I remember when my kids were born, that mentally scarred me.
Scarred? That's a rough word.
I'd say, once they clean them off and then they bring them to you, you hold them, then that makes it better.
It kind of fucks with your head a little.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So all this that led up to it, the pain, the mental pain, any of that, you've really found some relief with CBD. So tell me a little bit how that came about. I know you said the bottle sat there for a while when we talked earlier.
Yeah.
And my mother really, obviously I work in cannabis, CBD. I tried the same thing with her because she has arthritis, she has these spine issues, and she was terrified of it because she thought like, oh, drugs, bad. But in the meanwhile, she's been on Percocet and all these different other painkillers. But the bottle sat there for you for a different reason because you kind of dismissed it, right?
Well, yeah, I thought the same thing because I've never been a big marijuana person because, it does help me, to sleep and to do things like that. But I've just never been, one of the type of person that can do it and, function out in the world or carry on conversations with people. So
we talked, neither am I. Like, I want to go home and just, like, watch TV and laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, when they first came and told me, CBD, I'm like, what is CBD? Oh, it's cannabis. And so, my thought was, oh, this is the same thing. All it's going to do is just get me high. And then, And so I just kind of left it there. I'm like, yeah, I'm not just going to get high from a different form of high, you know. So, yeah, it sat there for about 2 weeks before I finally, was talked into trying it. And when I tried it, and I was like, wow, this is actually like, it didn't get me high, but it helped me sleep. It helped me relax a little bit. And so I was pretty, amazing, wanted to learn more about it at that point.
And do you know what dosage you take, or what ended up being an effective amount for you?
Well, I do the 1,000 milligrams. Yeah. So I do the 1,000 milligrams, and I usually do, one or two, of the droplets full. Yeah.
Very cool.
And that's been great for me.
All right. And do you feel that helps with pain and also any mental effects as well? Does it? Because a lot of people will use that for anxiety, depression, aside from just chronic pain. Do you feel overall well-being, or is it just a physical relief?
No, you do. I think it is a little more because you do get a little sense of relaxation. And for me, just sleeping better is because I don't sleep well at all. And I've never slept well since I was a kid. And that kind of just like triggers more things, So now you wake up, you're tired, or you don't want to get up, you're drowsy, you're irritated. And, being able to get a good night's sleep, I feel is just key to a lot of other benefits.
That's I share that with you as well. I actually woke up and started reviewing the things for today's interview between 2 and 4 this morning.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, well, I can't sleep anyway. Let me just knock this out. Maybe I could sleep in a little later. So yeah, good night's sleep is pretty big. Now so one thing I noticed when I was looking up NFL testing is the testing window ends in early August, but it starts on 4/20. Is that them just screwing with you guys?
Well, I'm not sure the exact date of start.
When I Googled it, that's what it said. It said between April 20th and early August. But does that sound right?
Yes, usually it starts in off-season workouts.
Yeah.
And you can get tested, at any time for street drugs.
Yeah.
And, and if you don't get tested during the off-season or the OTAs, mini camp, then you'll get tested in training camp.
Okay. But it's really just a window. So if you don't test positive within that window, then the rest of the year you're kind of fine?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So are they testing for CBD or just THC?
Honestly, I don't really know what they test for. They give us a list, and the list is like it's like a booklet. And
really? Oh wow!
And then the funny thing is, and then they don't, it's like put it in layman terms, please, because they list all the medical names of everything like you're not supposed to have, and it's like, listen, you just take the paper and just throw it out.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know.
So it's 15 words, and it means Tylenol.
I never would take multivitamins when
really?
I was playing because I was just always nervous that it could have some, because like I said, the list was so long of everything that, you could test positive for.
Wow.
That it really like made you not want to take anything.
Wow. So have you kind of now to either current or former players talked about like, hey, I found a lot of relief with this. This is another alternative. Have you been able to convert anyone?
I'm not sure if I've converted anyone. That's a good question. Well, I know, not players. No, I have had some players reach out to me after, seeing my stories, or at times that I was talking. But I know some, friends, family, and other people have reached out to me and, tried it or, been interested in learning more about it because of seeing, how it's helped.
Because your testimonial of like, yeah, this was really because like you said, it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe that it comes from cannabis. You're not going to get high, and it actually can be as effective as some of the harder pharmaceutical drugs. So it's kind of a hard sell. But so what do you think it would take for the NFL to start to consider this as an allowable treatment?
It probably would take for them to make money off of it.
The answer for everything, isn't it?
Yeah, if they make money off of it, then it would be okay.
I think that's the same answer for when our government's going to legalize it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So is there any kind of activism people can do to say like, hey, this is something we want to have a general acceptance? Is there anyone out there trying to rally for that?
Yeah, there are. You have a lot of people. I know Marvin Washington, he does a lot,
Yeah.
for pushing it with Athletes for Care, Riley Cote, Todd Hermans.
Yeah, so Athletes for Care, if you want to talk about, that's a great organization. I've met a lot of those guys through there, and our organization as well, NJCBA, that I help run, we do a lot of work with them. So if you want to talk about Athletes for Care, also we'll do that, and then I have another question for you to follow up.
Yeah, Athletes for Care has been amazing, just as far as reaching out to former players and allowing them to have a platform to give the testimonies and try to reach out to people. And it's amazing that it's so many different backgrounds that come from it. So you have anything from football to MMA to hockey to women's rugby.
Yeah, I played rugby, by the way.
Oh, you did?
I did, yes.
Tough.
So actually, if you want to get your 50th sack on the way out of here, I think we have an Iron Man helmet out there. We can make this happen.
Yeah, I really,
Too late?
Yeah, I really regret not getting that 50th sack. Sometimes I still want to go back and look at film and challenge some of the ones they cheated me out.
Get that extra half moved up.
Yeah.
There you go. See, I did my homework. Okay, cool. So, one of the people I met was Lawrence Taylor, because he started Diamond CBD. And he was a really big proponent of it because of CTE. And same with when I talked to Riley Cody, that was something he said. And so what's your thoughts on CTE? And also some of the players I've heard are talking about now, because your brain is not developed to a certain age, about letting young kids play. And I know you said you coach high school football, which is awesome, and I said they have like the best coach in the world probably. But what do you feel about the effects of CTE on players, CBD helping it, people at a young age who could possibly be affected? Just what are your thoughts?
CTE it's a tough thing. It's something that you can't prevent it in football. And I always tell people, do I sometimes, do I worry about that? Yeah. Sometimes you notice things that, where you're very forgetful, things that you should remember easily, you just can't. And you worry about it, but, if I could go back and do it all over again, I would.
Yeah.
But I just feel like the whole push for the CBD, for just trying to research for CTE and all of these things, it's like, why not? If you have a option out there that can really help people, why not? This
Sure.
is not like you look at the things nowadays with the Juul pods and all of these vaping devices that they just put on the market without even having any type of knowledge of what the effects are. But yet when it comes to CBD, which is something that's natural that could help with the CTE and things like that, I just feel like they're just really not helping. And with with kids, it's a tough call, because I know football numbers are down in a lot of places because a lot of parents are, nervous about it, and they're trying to, wait or let, the kids, or either hold them out altogether or wait and let them maybe get to high school first before they start to play. So it's a tough call. I know at our school, they put these Guardian caps on the kids, so it's like a big pad that goes on top of the helmet. So when they practice, they have these things on all the time, and it's ways out there to just try to limit a lot of the impact. They've been limited a lot of the amount of time that you can have contact on the field with the kids,
Okay.
as far as them hitting each other. So they're trying to take steps.
That's good. That's good that they're trying, because I think it would be a shame to lose as part of American history. Like you said, the numbers are down, but we do want to make sure we're protecting, kids while their brains are still developing. But so I know you've said you've had to play on through, like, that you were never officially diagnosed as a concussion, but you've basically had to play through concussions. So and you've talked about like players helping each other. Like, what does that involve? Like, how out of it are you? Is it like, which way do I run? Or is it just like, remind me what the play is?
Yeah, I mean, it's, well, which way to run, but, as far as the plays, it'd be times where you get dinged and you'd be like, yo, like, hey, let me know what I got on this, on these calls. Like, tell me, help me out. And I remember one play in general. It was when I was with the Eagles, and it was a Sunday night game against the Giants. And I caught the running back running across the field, and he never saw me. And I hit him so hard that he was asleep before he hit the ground.
Wow.
And my adrenaline and everything was going so much, and I was just so pumped up. And it was the second to last play of the half, because after that the Giants had to kick a field goal and we went in the locker room. And I remember when I got in the locker room and everything started settling down, and I was like, yo, like, I'm out of it. I was like, hey, yo, can y'all bring me some of the ammonia things? Like, and, when I went back out there, I said to my teammates, like, yo, y'all, like, if I need help, just watch me at first, make sure I'm cool. And, yeah, and, but you're not going to say anything because you want to keep playing. And, if you go out, then you look, you look weak, you look bad, and, having concussions is something that you could possibly be out for, more weeks if you have that. So you just are like, you know what, I'm not even saying nothing.
And then how long does it take you to come back to? Like, by the end of the day, you're like, all right, I'm good, or can that linger?
It can linger. It depends, on it. And I think one of the things, too, especially for older players, we were taught, if you got days, you shake it off. Like, back in the day, it wasn't, all of this stuff. So that's how we were taught. If you get days, shake it off. When you get your bearings back, all right, get back out there.
So your injury was not even because you got hit. It was because of how hard you just hit yourself on another human.
Yeah.
That's pretty badass, actually. But that's awesome. So tell me a little bit about the CBD line you got involved with. It's called Fresh Farms CBD, right?
Yes, I got involved in Fresh Farms it was a few years ago, I think. And, it's been great. And we've been doing a lot of expanding, working with other, athletes. And we've got beauty care lines now, too, as well. Just, introducing, putting CBD in so many different things, so we're not just doing, edible ways to do it. We even have the CBD flowers for people, that want to, maybe a different alternative of something that they could smoke and it's a,
And so what made you go with that company? Are they doing anything a little bit different with where they source it from or the quality, or you just kind of like the people running it?
Yeah, I liked it. I got introduced to the people running it, and I thought it was a great opportunity to get involved. They're out in California, and this was back when California was, I think, it wasn't as popular in other states as it was in California, and so being involved with them, it's a good quality product, and you can get products. With zero THC in them, just straight CBD for people that don't want to, have the THC or, that are nervous about that part of it.
So you've played in some cannabis-friendly states and some really conservative ones as well. Have you noticed different attitudes at the different places you've lived?
Oh, yeah.
Because was Washington, had they legalized when you were there?
I don't know if they did or not. I don't believe they did. I know I was in Virginia, though, because the Redskins facility is in Virginia.
Okay.
So, D.C. is separate from that. But, yeah, I know.
D.C. has a very interesting mode of legalization down there. It's you can buy this pencil and you get a free eighth with it.
Really?
So yeah, that's their model down there. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's funny. You could go on websites and they're literally selling like art that someone just made in the back room for whatever price they want to sell the cannabis for. But yeah, it's and then New York and Philly. I mean, we're just falling so far behind on the East Coast here. When you go out to California, it's just a whole different world out there.
Oh, this area is so corrupt. I always talk to people coming from, being born and raised in Michigan, and being in Wisconsin for 7 years, and I came out to this area, and it is amazing. The simplest things. I always joke with people. I say, you can't, if your air conditioner broke in your house, you can't even get a new air conditioner, replace it without having to get a permit and go through, go through people and get permission. Like
you have to hire a lobbyist.
Yeah, everything is monitored. Like, they control everything out here, and
yeah.
I think that's why this area is lagging so much in it, because people want the control, they want the power, and they want the money.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's rough in New Jersey, and honestly, I think we should have had legalization already a couple times, and that's what it came down to, was just, a couple votes from the right people. And you talk to politicians sometimes, and privately, they know that it's the right thing to do. They say, oh, yeah, I would like to legalize. I think it's fine. But then publicly, that's not their voter demographic. That's not where their support or their money's coming from. And you're right, it's literally that corrupt. And I think that's probably, like you kept saying with the NFL, when it's financially, when it makes sense. And unfortunately, that's so much of what cannabis is. And, I don't know what changes that. But it'd be great if, people like yourself, Athletes for Care, the NFL, they're so powerful if we could really mobilize that influence. But I don't know if you remember a couple Super Bowls ago, they tried to have that cannabis commercial for Acreage, and they censored it because they wouldn't even play a cannabis commercial during the Super Bowl.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's they're really keeping it at arm's length right now. But I don't know. So yeah, any kind of cannabis stories within the NFL that you're like, I don't know, players using it or players not, or just any kind of like funny experiences you've had? Without outing any people or saying any names.
Okay, I know this one story, and I won't tell any stories about any of my teammates.
Just people you don't like, then.
So, I know this one guy, and this guy may or may not be me,
mm-hmm.
but I remember the first time he decided to try an edible, or make an edible, and never realized that the edible took so long to kick in, and ate maybe 3 big brownies.
I've heard this story. Yep.
Yeah, and so all I know is when the next morning came, that person was still done. So this person went to work and, was in the facility at breakfast and could not understand what people were saying to him. Just it took till practice was over before this person finally started to get...
You're like, I got a concussion during breakfast. I have no idea how it happened.
Yeah, that was a very interesting story.
That's funny. That's a really common tale because people don't know it takes 2 hours to kick in. They have this phrase out in Colorado, it's start low, go slow, but I think so many people have done that. Also, sometimes you get high and brownies are delicious and you're like, yeah, I'm just going to have a couple of these. But, yeah, I've...
and into some people, a brownie serving varies from person to person. Mm-hmm. So some people might be used to, brownie this size, and other people might be used to brownies this size.
Sure.
So when you eat, a few brownies this size.
and this is, I don't want to talk about myself, but I got my start making a brownie mix. And one of the things that it remedies is there's emulsifiers in the mix. And because the problem is, especially when you're making them at home, when you make edibles in a commercial environment, they stir that batch for hours. When you do it at home, you stir it for, 30 seconds, a minute. So one brownie might have 5 milligrams and the one next to it might have 40. So you could be sitting there not high and your friend is seeing the face of God and you're like, what's going on over there? And it's because you have hot spots in your batter. So that's another thing with regulation. If we legalize, we're going to have dosed brownies and edibles where you can kind of control that and make it predictable like you would with medication. And we're also going to have what was I going to say? I don't, better quality, and just, we can, I was going to say, they're going to, how you said you don't know what a serving is. They're going to, like a candy bar would have to have marks to break it. It would have to be demarcated. So you know what 10 milligrams is. So you're not like, oh, a brownie's 4 servings. Who the hell would think that? A brownie's a brownie,
Yeah.
So these are all things we're hoping to solve with legalization. And I mean, in California, this is already done. In Colorado, it's done. We're just hanging out here in the Stone Ages out in Jersey.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, too, because I think just with that and the knowledge, because I know in Michigan, where they have dispensaries and things as well, where you can get edibles, it tells you, and being able to educate people more on it so that things like, what happened to that guy?
That guy.
That guy. So things like that don't happen.
Yeah.
And, once people are more educated and they, know, and like you said, and you can control the doses better and the intake
And even I have that story. I mean, I was showing up to a graphic design job, so no chance of injury, but I was still sitting there stupid. Like, my boss was telling me things, and the second he walked away, I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. Just going to stare at the screen and pretend. So I think we all have that story.
Like, please let this day end.
Yep. When you wake up the next day, you're just... And then there was one time that happened to me, and I had morning meetings. And so I just kept calling my ex-husband and being like, babe, can I talk on the phone yet? He's like, no, you're still too dumb. And I would just call him every hour till about noon, 1 o'clock. And he's like, all right, you can start taking calls. I was like, all right, great. All right, so last thing, one thing we like to do on the show here is talk about firsts. So you could do either or, you could do both. But your first time getting high, I would say, what was that about? And your first time you said, I can do this professionally as a career, playing football.
First time getting high. I remember I was in high school. The first time I tried to get high, it didn't work out well. You have it. You don't know how to inhale properly or whatever. But we were at a basketball tournament, and I tried it, and it didn't work out. It didn't work out well. I didn't get high. So then later on, when I tried it again, and it did, so then I was like, whoa, eventually like what is this? Like,
yeah.
So yeah, it was my first time getting high. First time I realized that I could play football as a career, or it was an option to do that. It was in college, I would say, right before my junior year in college. And when I first went to college, I didn't think NFL was an option for me. I went to Central Michigan, and there we had one player from the school that was in the NFL, and he was like a 10-year vet. And so we just didn't, the MAC wasn't scouted as much as it is now. So I didn't think it was an option. But once my brother...
I see, I really did my homework. I read that it was the only Division I school you were offered, right?
Right.
And then, but it wasn't one of the Big Ten, but you think it actually worked out better, right?
It did.
Yes.
I mean, it was a blessing in disguise, because I think if I would have went to a bigger school, I may not have got moved down to the defensive line. And the fact that I went to Central, I was the heaviest linebacker at 225 pounds my freshman year. And I played as a true freshman a little bit at linebacker, but we had 4 senior defensive ends that year. And so when all of them graduated, they needed defensive ends. And since I was the heaviest linebacker, they asked me if I would move down, and I was like, sure. So I went down the defensive line, and I struggled. At first it was rough. But like I said, when my brother got drafted, and he was drafted second round, and me and Chris used to compete all the time. I think I competed a lot more, than he did, because to me, everything is a competition.
And the younger one usually has something to prove, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I was always just, trying to beat him and trying to, show him up or do things. But, yeah, once he got drafted and I saw he started playing and doing it, it motivated me to feel like, that it was a possibility.
Okay. And then after that, you went over to Europe for a while, right?
Yeah, well, because I first signed with Green Bay as undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
They cut me. I didn't, there was a time there that I didn't think that it was going to happen.
So even though you had that first moment of like, yeah, I'm going to do this, then you kind of got the wind sucked out of you and you're like, maybe I was wrong.
Yeah, and I'm not the biggest defensive lineman in the world. And so I can remember when I first got to Green Bay and I saw the size of some of those defensive linemen. I'll never forget it to this day when there's a guy named Turdale Sands, and he's about 6'8". He was 300 and something pounds. And when I first saw him, I looked at him. I was like, man, I'm never going to play. But, you get out in the field and, once you start playing and, you realize you're like, man, I can really compete with some of these guys, because I was a little intimidated at first because you have so many, players from big name schools and, you kind of feel like, yeah, maybe they're that much better than me. But when I went to Europe is when I really got my confidence back after being cut because, I started getting a lot of attention from scouts from other teams and, even my teammates and coaches were, man, this kid can play, you pretty good. And so I was, doing better than players who had played years on NFL teams already. And so that really encouraged me a lot and kept me working towards it.
That's awesome. And 13 years is a pretty long career. So if you had told that kid back then, like, oh no, you're going to do this for a long time, you're going to win a Super Bowl, would you ever have believed it?
Never. I always tell people, I say I'm such an overachiever. Like, I've definitely overachieved in my career.
But
so,
that probably means you're a really hard worker.
Yeah.
So that's usually who the people who rise above what they ever thought. It's because they dedicate themselves.
I always tell people, though, it's the difference between working hard and working smart. And
Yeah.
I always tried to work smart. I didn't try to, do unnecessary things. I tried to do things that would, really help me. I will always tell the younger guys, know what your strengths and weaknesses are. And, try to perfect your strengths. And try to, be able to keep your weaknesses from being exposed. And so that was kind of my approach to football.
I think that's pretty good life advice in anything you'd want to do.
Yeah.
All right, let's end up on that. Is there anything you want to plug? Anything with your line, with yourself, anything coming up?
Just you check out freshfarmcbd.com. Look at the products. We've got everything from, CBD oils to rubs to beauty care products. Besides that, just like to give a shout out to my daughters, Jasmine and Shanti. Love you guys.
Hi, Jasmine and Shanti. Your dad's awesome.
You guys keep me motivated, so, keep doing a great job.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for being on. Everyone, thank you for listening to the podcast. For all you Trailblazers out there, please rate, review, and subscribe. We have new episodes coming out every week. You can follow me on social media on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter as Blazin Bakery. That's BLAZIN Bakery. You can also learn more about our products at blazinbakery.com. As always, my name is Tara Misu. Love you all and keep on trailblazing.